Okay, so I'm going to go over some of the things we did in class today, creating a publication. So first I'm going to make a document. I'm just going to pick from print size a letter size, um, something like that. Here, maybe I'll make it 8 by 11 instead of 8.5 by 11. And then I will click my facing pages here. So I'll make it 8 pages. I can put that here, but I can also do that once I've actually started my document. So I'll just start the document as is, create. Sorry, my neighbor's vacuuming. Hopefully you can still hear me. So here's my document. And then in pages over here, I can add more pages. So I'm going to go ahead and make 8 pages for now. So it's pretty simple, straightforward. Here's my kind of pages. So first thing I'm going to do is bring in my type. So I had some type saved up over here from a different article. I'll just copy all of that, and I will just make a text box and paste it in. So as we discovered in class, I'm going to show the hidden characters. So I have to go down to type and then show hidden characters. As we discovered in class on the PC, some of you might have not the actual enter that we want. So it's going to be difficult for you to style your paragraphs because the paragraph style will affect everything as a whole. So if that's the case, you can do a find replace. So some of you, if you have this instead of an actual enter, this little kind of turned L, I think someone called it. So you can do Command F or Control F. That brings up the find change. So I can just go and kind of copy this little thing, this little space, which is actually this accent, circumflex accent, I'm not sure what it's called, and an N, and then replace it with this, change to this. So then when I go change all, it's going to affect, I only had one of them, so it's going to affect that. So that way you don't have to do it manually. And this can be a thing, if you realize that for some reason in your document there's a bunch of places where there's two spaces or multiple, like that can happen. You can also come in here and say change two spaces to one space, change all. So this is a great little tool, find change. So I'll close that. Now we all have kind of something like this. Then basically what I can do to start with is I want to get a sense of how much type do I actually have that I'm working with. So I know that maybe I'll have my title here and I might not have anything else, or maybe I'll have the title and like an intro paragraph. I think this thing has an intro paragraph, but I'll just start here and then I'll start. So I'm undoing. So I'm selecting this little plus sign that's at the very edge of my text box. It's saying, hey, there's more to this. Like, you're not seeing it, but there's all this other text that has been pasted in. It's just not in the text box. So you need more text box to see it. So I'll just click my little plus sign and I'll start just kind of putting it in here kind of casually. I can also just click and it'll fill in the whole page, but I know that's probably not the size I'm going to want, so I'll just make it kind of smaller. So I just want to see kind of, okay, how much space does this all take up? And in this case, it kind of takes up a lot of space. And you might realize, oh, my publication needs to be longer or whatever, but this is, we'll figure that out later on. Okay, so it goes to kind of here. Now I could also just bring in everything. So I might just bring in all my images. So this is from this article, this teacher, designer lady, Beneta Kripa. And maybe I'll just kind of put all my images here. I think actually I would recommend doing that so that you know what you're working with. So before you kind of start shaping the type, you're like, okay, these are my things I have. And yeah, so you don't have to use all of them, but you have access to them on your board. And when I hit W for preview, I don't see them. They're just kind of hiding around on my board. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do then, once I'm ready to kind of start shaping the text, let's say, and I'm like, okay, this is about design and ecology, that's kind of the headline. So at first, as we talked about, we have to be reading what our article is. So you at least need to be skimming fairly effectively to know, okay, what am I talking about? I'm going to design that differently based on that. But for now, I know this is the headline. What is this visual sustainability, and how can designers challenge power through form? And I'll look for, maybe because it's ecology. If I read this article well, actually, I might come up with a concept really based on this person's work. So they explain what ecology is, or visual ecology is, and I haven't read it, so I haven't, I'm just doing this for the demo. But if I were to actually design this, I would definitely read it and be thinking, like, what does this mean? How can I apply that kind of principle in the way I'm thinking about it? Kind of what would my response be as a designer? So these are things, you can be thinking about those things. So I'm going to say maybe I'm just going to keep it to, can't see very well in this case, a nice serif. What would be a fun thing to play with? I don't know. I'll just go with this for right now since I'm trying to go quick. Then I'm going to make this large, and I'm going to, maybe I'll make it really large. We can take up space. And I'm going to decide this is what my title will look like. Okay, I don't like that my word is cut up. I'm going to unhyphenate it, see what happens. Okay, maybe I go even larger. I don't know. Here we go. So I'll hit W and I can see, okay. So one thing you can actually, this is a detail in typography. Quotation marks are, there's often the wrong quotation mark, which is actually kind of a numerical one. So this here, when I'm typing, is the proper quotation mark. And you might want to, check that yours are the correct one. So I might go under type, under glyphs, and see what I have here. Do I have any other options for quotation marks? I have European ones, but I don't have anything else. So this is actually the wrong one, the one that's just to a prime mark, it's called. So actually mine was correct. Okay, so you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to make paragraph styles. So I'm going to come up with a secondary type. So maybe I'll also do Louise display, it's called. But so actually, one thing when you're designing, when there's a typeface that's called display, so if you go and you search for display in your options, that's often meant for a title. So that can be a really useful thing to come back to and think about, okay, this was actually designed, cut to be a title. So that's good to know. I'm going to apply a little space before. Maybe I'll make this one sentence. Maybe I don't need all this information for right here. Words by Meg Miller. This probably should be different, so I'll make that a different thing, like a serif. And I unless I have a reason to, I'm not going to use condensed really. You can use condensed in your titles or in really expressive moments, but I wouldn't use a condensed font for most things, just kind of for no reason. Okay, I'll make this much smaller. Anyway, and for the sake of time, I'll just make this the same thing as that. And then I have to pick my, I'm working off of my, okay, or maybe this is, I have my beginning thing here, and I want to use some kind of imagery, I know. So let's say I was making a book and I would have multiple titles coming back. I'm going to go ahead and make this into a paragraph style. So I can do this here under paragraphs, under text styles, but I'm going to go under window because I feel like I have more agency and I can like manipulate things more how I want. Oops, wrong one. I have to go down to Windows, Styles, and then Paragraph Styles. So I really prefer working here. I find it's clear. So you can decide. I don't know if I can actually remove this properties thing. I think if you go under Windows Workspace and there's other ones, Advanced or Typography, that might be better. But anyway, here we go. So I'm going to create my new paragraph that has it's just called title. So later on, if I wanted to, make another one that's using the same type style, I would do that. And then I'll do this for my subtitle, even though that's not the correct word. And then this will be kind of, I don't know, secondary info. Okay. And then I want to deal with my main type, right? So here I have this. Okay. I can move it around based on what I want. So now I have my main type situation. Let's say I'm going to select the first 2 paragraphs. Or actually, I'm reading this, so I'm realizing here's an intro about Benita Kripa. So I have something about this person. So I could potentially just use kind of this as a reading. So this is this font that I'm using is a trial, so I don't have all the characters, which is why it's showing me this. This might be a little bit hard to read, so maybe I would keep it in my display, but I would just use regular. There's a lot of intro, but it's definitely a thing to make the intro a lot larger than the rest. If you wanted to, it's not necessary. But then, here I could decide that it's going to have an indent, but I don't want a space before. So I'm going to say this right here is my new paragraph style. It's called intro, and I can apply that to, I just click on intro, and now I'm modifying which one is applied. And then I could do an override here where I say actually the first one shouldn't have anything, because that's usually the case. Okay, so what's nice now is that I can go in and say actually I want all of this to be green because it's related. Disregard these little things. I'll just put a dash even though it's an M dash, which is better. But I can go double click the intro, and then now I have access to changing a bunch of things. I can change the leading from here, and I hit preview, I can see what I'm doing. I can change a lot of different things, the indents. I'll just go ahead and put some color, let's say, why not? So I can click green, or I could double click. Apparently I can't change the color options. So you might need to first change the colors in here and add the colors to your repertoire before you can go and change this here. But I'll just put pink. So if I wanted to here add another color, change that to something interesting like this deep green, then I can go in my paragraph style, character color, and now that's available down here. Okay. I'm just gonna hit OK. Okay. So now this interview's been shortened for clarity. So I'm still in my intro. There's a lot of stuff, but that's okay. Just take my time. Now I know that I have a Q&A, so I'm going to have to find something that's the kind of question treatment and something that's the answer treatment. So what I could do is, go through my character, and I'm going fast because I'm being, this is a demo, but I would take more time thinking about what I'm using and why in the reality of designing this. So I don't know, for the sake of continuing, I'll keep the Louise as my here, that'll be easier. Louise, it's because I have the answers. I'll keep that as my question, but then I will refine. I'll use it in kind of a medium for some reason, and I'll make that larger. Right, it didn't apply, so I'll go back and do it again. Louise display trial medium. Okay. And then my answer, I'm not going to use that because this is a display and you can see it's not so quick reading. So depending on how long the questions are, I would decide whether it's workable or not. we're imagining this is a design magazine and people are kind of willing to try some things, you know, read a little more difficult stuff. And maybe I'll go with this accurate that I just have. I'm going to make this a little smaller. I'm realizing I don't need that much. Maybe I'll add a little leading, but I can make it smaller. And maybe I decide my answers will be indented a little bit. And I'm just doing this at random, but you would, you know, potentially make a grid first and kind of be thinking through all of that. And you can also push it on the right, so if your line length is too long, you can push from the right as well. And I'm going to add a little bit of space before because I'm feeling like this is really tight and it's hard to read. So I'll do that. Okay, so now that I have this kind of beginning thing I'm happy with, I remove the hyphenation on the question because I don't want my short questions to have hyphens on them. So now I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, here's this question. Click. This is my question. So all my questions are going to use this style. And I'll make a new one. Oops. I'm making a new one with that selected. Okay, that's this thing. Answer. So then I'll just start applying. So this is actually still my answer. So I'll do answer. I have to read this. Answer. Actually, this is a question. As designers, we must acknowledge. Da, 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 da. So this is a question. No, it is not. It's an answer. Sorry. So yeah, basically I'm going through and then I can see whether my style worked or not. Like maybe it's way too long. I'm realizing there's way too much going on in this question answer. There's, you know, maybe I can alter things, but you need to like work and try things. And I'm confused by this text. I'm trying to figure out whether there are more questions in here. But yeah, you have to be reading what you're thinking. To your point, okay, so this is a question. And then this will be an answer. And I'm realizing maybe there needs to be space before my question because it's too tight. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go back into my question paragraph style, and I will go in here, paragraph rules, not paragraph rules, space before. So indents and spacing, space before. Now I'm going to add some space before. So I'm going to add significantly more because I'm saying, okay, we need a breather before we begin a new question. So I'm going to add more space than I will in the space that's between these paragraphs. Okay. So here we go. This is affected up here, but I can come back and fix that later. And now I'm going to go and say, you know, okay, real quick, I'm going to just apply it to all my, this is a question. This is an answer. It's a question. So really quickly, I'm starting to have something that I can work with design-wise. Okay, so I'm working with a bunch of text. I'm going to stop here just for the sake of time of this video. But you would keep going and you would, you know, realize you want this, the interview has been shortened for text, you want that here, and you can deal with it later. It's less important. You can have its own kind of thing. And then, you know, you might want to start shaping the text, realizing, okay, this is too long of text on one page. I don't want to read that. So maybe I'm, you know, realizing I want this to be shorter, or I could say I want to try 2 columns. So here's an example of if I wanted to do 2 columns and I want to span this question, that could be a really useful, a good use of span. So I'm going in and I'm doing 2 columns text frame. I'll kind of shorten it so it's just this whole section. And then I can go in here and select just this top area And then in my paragraph, so I need to go to the drop down menu of type, window, sorry, and then type and tables paragraph. And then within here, I have in this kind of burger menu at the top of this window, I can go and click span columns, and then I can say, okay, I want you, preview, to span these columns. So this question is now kind of overarching the rest. And I could say maybe I actually need this to be a larger type. I don't know. I'm not actually designing in a thoughtful way here. I'm just trying things so you can see it. And then I can, if I want to, and I realize, oh, I modified, maybe I want some space, more space before, or more space after my question. So I don't want it to apply to all of them, but every time the question, I want a little bit more space. Then I can go in here in my paragraph styles, and I can right click on it. Oops. If you click on it, it'll try and apply it. So I'm actually control clicking on my Apple computer. I think that might be the same on PC, but I'm not 100% sure. But once I control click, I can click redefine style, and now that's just been applied, and all the other ones are redefined in the exact same way. So if I were to do a 2-column here, they're all applied this way. Okay. And then because I have I realize now that I have 2 columns, I have too much space going on here. I have too much going on, so I can just go back in and change that. So you want to probably the best way would be to first play around and decide, what a good layout is before you go in and make your paragraph styles, but it can be a really useful tool for trying things quickly. So, just kind of play around, and you can redefine them once you change them. So control click, redefine style. I removed the right space here. Okay, so I will stop this video and come back with other ones so it's not too long.